Making a decision. In episode 3, in 3, 2, 1. Hey, mamas, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am excited to talk to you about this topic today because I think it's something that can make a really big impact, something that if you do it, it will change the way that your daily life is. You will have more joy, you will have more productivity. And those are all things we could use as moms, right? So, what is this? It is about making a decision. So, this is something that I used to do really well when I was younger. And then after I became a mom, it was like, I don't know. I don't know what happened to my decision-making abilities, but I felt like it was a struggle. And it could be like just talking about making a decision could be something triggering to a lot of people because I know that sometimes just thinking about making decisions would stress me out, even just little decisions. And I'm going to talk to a little bit about why that is, I believe. Um, but I just want to start with a quote because I think I started the last episode with a quote, and I'm going to start this one with a quote. I may start all my episodes with a quote. It's how I start all my jazzercise classes. I love quotes. You guys that know me know I love like all these little positive self affirmations, quotes, different things. I've got things up everywhere, all over my house. So this is something that's going to be a part of the podcast. So I'm going to start with a quote from Oprah Winfrey. And this is: nothing happens until you decide. Make a decision and watch your life move forward. So it's so true, right? Like we have to decide about everything. Our life is a result of the decisions we made in our past. It's a result of what we do day to day, the decisions we make in a day. We don't even realize all the decisions that we're making in a given day, but this is about making a decision for you. And it can be something as small as, I don't know, deciding to wake up earlier in your day. Like maybe you have a morning routine that you've wanted to implement and you want to wake up earlier. So you decide to wake up earlier, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can do that, but I want you to first think about in your head, I want you to think of something. It could be, like I said, waking up earlier. It could be you want to start exercising so that you feel better. It could be like you want to clean your house and get organized. Like your house is a mess and you need to get it organized. That's the decision you're going to make, is to get organized. You might just want to start reading again. It could be a small decision or it could be a big decision. Like I want to start a business, like make that decision. I want to start dating my husband again. Make a decision that you're going to make a date night a priority with your spouse. It could be that you want to, I don't know, make a Halloween costume for your kid this year. Make that decision, right? The problem with making decisions a lot of times is you know that you want the result, but you don't know how to get there. And so it could be something as simple as, like, for instance, today, like I decided I am recording this podcast today. That was a decision I made. I'm going to record this today. I could put it off, but the problem with making that decision is that I have to do all these other things in my day as well. Like this week in particular, it's my husband's birthday. It's my daughter's birthday. We're having like a bunch of girls here for a sleepover on Friday night. I've never had a big sleepover here. She's super excited. I am kind of too. It sounds like a super fun spa night birthday party. But like there's a lot of planning that goes into that. My mother-in-law's here for the week. So, just making sure that she's taken care of and she's staying with us, and all the other business things that I have to get done this week. Like I've got a lot on my plate, and yet I knew I wanted to record this podcast, but I couldn't even sit down to record the podcast until I like made the decision that I wanted to do that. I had to then backtrack and say, okay, what's going to be the things that I have to do in order to be able to really be present and record this podcast? So I had to decide that I was going to make the grocery list and, get all of these things. So sometimes what's really helpful in making a decision is brain dumping. So you might have heard this before, but you basically just sit down and you write everything that you have to do down on a piece of paper. Everything that's in your head, it doesn't have to even be that like important. Like it could be you have to I don't know, sign the kids' school sheet, like a sheet for them to go on a field trip or something. You have to get that signed. Or it's picture day. It was picture day today. And I was like the mom that totally forgot about picture day until yesterday. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it could be these little tiny things that we can forget about if we get really busy, that you put everything down on a sheet of paper. And then you're like, okay, this is all the things that I have to get done this week. And then you can start prioritizing. Okay, that could actually wait. Like I know that the party doesn't happen until Friday. So I feel like there's all these urgent things that have to happen for the party, but it's not till Friday. So some of those might be able to wait until Thursday or Friday even, because, they're going to be at school all day on Friday. So I'll have time while they're at school to prep for the party, right? So once you get everything dumped onto a piece of paper, then you can prioritize and you can say, okay, I can actually record my podcast today because here's the only things that I have to get done today. And recording my podcast is one of them. So I can do that if I just, clear my brain first of making the grocery list and whatever, so that I can sit down and actually be productive in making my podcast, right? And so that is just an example of one of the things that I did this morning to make a decision for myself. But what I want to challenge you to do is to make a decision for yourself that is going to be something that is impactful on your life. So, like I said, it might actually be a small thing, like starting to read again, if you haven't been reading, or starting to exercise again. But those things might seem overwhelming until you take other baby steps to make sure that you have the space to be present in what you're doing when you're doing it, so that you're able to read and just enjoy the book when you're reading, or you're able to go and work out and not feel bad about it because you're like, I should be doing this, this, and this, and this. But that I'm sure you've heard it before, you have to fill your cup before you can fill other people's cup, right? That is so true. And it's very true as a mother. So you have to make those decisions that you're going to prioritize yourself and that you're worth it. And I want to tell you right now that you are worth it. You are so worth it. Make some decision for yourself today. And maybe it's a big decision, right? Like if you're making a big decision, those can be really scary. And so I do want to talk a little bit about making those big decisions and how, even big decisions used to be pretty easy for me before children. And I think before I had all these other things going on in my life that I felt like, gosh, I don't know if it was, I felt like I should be. There's a lot of shoulds out there, right? Like there's a lot of, in this day and age we live in, we're just subjected to all these things, right? Like the ways of the world, you might want to call them, or societal norms, or, just the way that things are supposed to be done, depending on what, groups you run in, or the people that you've hung around, or, cultural things. Like there's things that you should do as a woman, as a mother, as a this, right? And they might have been programmed into you from a very young age. And, thankfully, there's a lot in today's, we are now in 2023. And so today in 2023, there are a lot of things that people are trying to break those molds. But there's still a lot that lives inside of you from when you grew up. And it doesn't matter if it's necessarily like acceptable now to do certain things that maybe weren't acceptable then. It's how you perceive it in your mind. So you might perceive, oh, if I exercise before, such and such is done, then it's going to be like before, let's just say the dishes are done, or like the house is clean, or the laundry is done, or whatever, then it means I'm not a good mother or a good caretaker or a good whatever, like insert whatever you want to say. It does not have to be that way. You need to fill your cup so that you can do the other things. I find that when I take the time to prioritize, like for me, it's the morning routine. And, it's all about taking baby steps towards things. So once you make a decision for something, then you have to just take action that's going to move you towards those things. So if it's to start reading, right, that's a little bit easier than, let's just say I want to be healthier and I want to, lose this weight so that I'm healthier. Like that's a more long-term goal. I want to start a business, or even I want to have a morning routine. That can actually be more of a long-term goal, because you're going to have to be doing things in kind of a stair step pattern to get yourself there. So maybe, if you want to do a morning routine, you have to wake up earlier, right? And if you now wake up at like 7 because everyone else has to get up at like 7:15, then waking up at 6 is going to be a stretch, right? Like, so it's going to be hard to all of a sudden wake up a whole hour earlier. Like it might not be hard for a day or two, but if you are trying to do that for a long period of time and your body's not used to it, it's going to be a lot harder. So what you might have to do is, if you wake up at 7, wake up 15 minutes earlier. Wake up 15 minutes earlier for, let's just say 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, and then wake up 15 minutes earlier. And now by 3 or 4 months, you're at 6 o'clock and you now have an hour in your morning, and you can add little things that you want to do to your morning routine. So maybe when you wake up 15 minutes earlier, maybe you're only able to, if you woke up at 7 and you used to just like make sure your hair was brushed and your teeth were brushed and whatever, you could make a cup of coffee before your kids were up. Maybe now you can actually get dressed, or maybe you can, actually eat something. Or, if you wake up 30 minutes earlier, by the time you're at 30 minutes earlier, then you can add in, like for me in my morning routine, I want to sit down. I want to have my Bible app open. I want to read my Bible, my devotional. I want to do my prayers for the day. And all of that might take a little bit longer than the 15 minutes. So I might have to wait until month 2 to implement that step into it. Right. And so you can like take your goal and chunk it down. Getting healthier starts with, maybe it's, you want to wake up earlier and then you're going to go for your walk. Right. And so maybe it's, okay, tomorrow I'm going to, or maybe you wake up early enough, but you just want to, let's say, put the shoes next to the bed so that, and your clothes laid out or whatever. So the night before, you're going to have to put your shoes and your clothes there so that in the morning you can get up, put those on, and go for a quick walk before the kids are up, before your spouse leaves, whatever it is, right? So there's little baby steps that you can do to move you closer to that goal. But the key is to make that decision in your brain. Make that decision and decide that you're going to do something. And then you can prioritize the things in your life that you have to get done in order to make that happen. But I just want to challenge you to take some time. And I think I started to talk about this earlier about making a decision. Like sometimes that can just even be triggering in and of itself, as you have to make a decision, especially if it's a big decision about something. Like say you're going to start a new business and you want to start a new business, but you're like, but what do I do? Like what should I do? Or what am I supposed to do? I know that was a big struggle of mine for a while. And we're going to talk about that that'll be a whole lot deeper conversation, but trust your gut. Like trust your gut. Sometimes as I don't know if it's a woman thing, a mom thing, or if it's just my personality type, but I tend to overthink. Like I really tend to overthink and overanalyze things. And so I need to get into my gut. And what I believe is my gut is like, it's God speaking to me. So it's like, you check in, you have time of reflection, you have maybe a time of prayer, and you're asking yourself, you're asking God, you're asking whomever, you are just asking, what is the decision that I should make? Right. And you will like get this feeling about the decision. And I'm not talking about like an emotion necessarily. I am talking about a knowing. It's like a gut feeling. It's not like a brain feeling or like a heart feeling. It's more of like a gut feeling. It's in your gut. It doesn't live in your heart. Like, your heart tends to, lead by emotion. And sometimes that gets us in trouble. Our head sometimes gets us in trouble because again, you think about the societal norms and you think about all these other things that is this the right decision? Does this make sense for this reason or that reason? Well, guess what? It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else but you. And if you and your gut and your knowing knows that you're supposed to do this one thing that you need to do for yourself, for your family, for your life, then you need to follow that, right? So I have another quote here I'm going to share with you. And this one is from Carrie Russell. And it says, sometimes it's the smallest decisions that can change your life forever. And it is so true. And I think that's one of the reasons why people a lot of times do put so much pressure on their decisions. But I can tell you from just past experiences that those smaller decisions that maybe at the time I didn't even think were going to make that big of an impact on my life, they really did. Like the decision to say yes to something. And usually at the time when you make this like small decision, but in your gut, it's like the right decision, but it's like, doesn't seem like that big of a deal at the time, right? It's just like this decision that you should make, but at the time you don't even know why it's such a big deal. And later in life, it winds up making the biggest deal because it's the way you like met your husband, or it's the way that you wound up getting all this joy or all these connections in your life, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you just need to check in to your gut and your knowing in order to make those small decisions and just take that next step, take some action. So I want to encourage you today. Hopefully this is all making sense to you. I want to encourage you to make a decision for yourself today. Make the decision to make a decision for yourself. Okay. I want you to really think about what it is that you want more of in your life. And you can think about the long term, right? Like the long term of what it is, like the actual end goal, if you will, of what you want from your life. But what can you do today in order to make that happen? So make that decision for yourself. Do one small thing that gets you towards that goal. And I want to hear about it. Tell me about it. I want to know if any of this is resonating with you, if it's helping at all. I tend to get long-winded on certain things, and this is something that I think will make a big impact. And I know we're going to talk about it more in depth. I have a lot of different reasonings behind decision making and just ways that you can improve your life by doing it. And we'll talk more about that later. But I hope this has been helpful. I would love to hear if it was from you. Leave me some feedback, reach out to me on social media. I would love to hear from you. Okay. Till next time, mamas, keep smiling.